Hello YouTube, Assassin here today, and welcome back to another video. And today we're going to be going over the strengths and weaknesses for the Druid. I did it for Hunter and you guys wanted me to do it for Druid. I may do it for the other classes, I don't know 100% sure yet, but as of right now, these are the two I wanted to do. And let's go ahead and get this started. So let's go over the strengths and weaknesses first for all the specs. I'll be going over the other ones one by one just because each spec is different. I don't think I'll do healer because I don't really do play healer that often. So I'd rather not give misspread information. So I'll no healer for this video. Strengths. Mobility. All specs have really good mobility. So that's one of their strengths. Healing. In Legion, all the healing wasn't as strong, but in BFA, the healing is incredibly good right now. So that's one of their strengths. Alright, up next is immune to polymorphs. So if you're a fan of avoiding polymorphs and you kind of get annoyed by them, then another good thing plus strength is being immune to polymorphs. So, which is nice, so you don't have to be feared of being polymorphed. They can get out of slows with the shapeshifting, and good utility. And by good utility, that means Typhoon to knock people off, tons of stuns, like Feral has Mighty Bash if you talent it, or Feral has a baseline stun. They have Roots, they have Balustrade Cyclone and Disarm. They have Battle Res, and I've seen not a lot of Druids use this in PvP. It really is useful. If somebody important on your team, like a healer, is dead, use it on them. I've actually had some fights be turned around solely due to the fact that I rezzed the right person, like a healer, and we managed to win the fight just solely due to the fact that battle res, and we got the healer back. So that's just a little extra strength that people can use. Let's go on to weaknesses. GCD on shapeshifting. This is about the main important thing that I feel like is the weakness for Druid specs is the GCD, because all it takes is a split second to get stuck in a stun outside of bear form for a second to heal yourself, and then you just get screwed in the bud, basically. So, I feel like that's one of their weaknesses. So, with that, guys, let's go ahead and move on to the strengths of each spec one by one. Let's cover Boomkin first. Boomkin, their strengths is they are very good at spread pressure class, like Affliction Warlock, Shadow Priest. It's basically the dot type class. Their single target I feel like lacks a little bit because they're more like a set of spread pressure class. And their single target is okay in BFA. I mean, people are saying about the whole Moonfire thing right now. I'm like 99% sure it's going to get nerfed. I feel like they're just still, that's pretty much what the way Boomkin is designed, to be a spread pressure class. So, they're very good in 40-mans, they're very good in large group settings. 1v1 they are okay, but there's obviously better classes like Rogue and Demon Hunters and, you know, better classes well suited design for 1v1s. So, if you're looking for a 1v1 class, Boomkin does okay, but they're not like God mode in my opinion. They also have good utility, which I was talking about earlier, and I feel like this spec has the most utility. The reason I already went over it, but I'll explain it again. They have Thorns, which you can help give to your teammate, and it'll slow the person that's attacking them while also taking down their HP. They have a Disarm that hits in last 8 seconds. Will it get nerfed probably in the future? I don't know. People are complaining about it. So there's that. They have Cyclone, which makes people immune to taking damage and healing. So if somebody's trying to heal them, then they can't do anything. And you can also use it to CC the healer. They have Typhoon, which all specs have. They have Mighty Bash. They just overall have a ton of utility. Alright, weaknesses. I would say their weaknesses are, they're not the best 1v1 spec, which, like I said before, they're not bad, but I feel like they're not the best. So if you're looking for the best 1v1 spec, Balanced Druid, in my opinion, is not that. Like, I would not go balance for if you're trying to look for 1v1s, but it really shines in Battlegrounds. Like, Battlegrounds are the main source thing that I do, so Battleground-wise, Boomkin is amazing, by far. They're really good in RPGs. I'm not sure about arenas. I'm pretty sure they're probably good. But, yeah, so I feel like that's one of their weaknesses. One of their other weaknesses is they have a very long silence cooldown. So, their silence is a 1 minute cooldown. I mean, it does have its benefits as well. If you run deep roots, you can pop your entangling roots and silence, and they have to pretty much eat it unless they trinket it. So, decent trade-off, I guess. But yeah, I feel like that's one of their weaknesses. And I'll explain why in a few. Their last one is harder to kite. And some of you may disagree with me on that, why I said that. And I'll give you a brief explanation why. I played Boomkin for a lot of expansion packs now. And the thing that stands out to me is Mr. Pandaria. Pandaria, we had the Trents, and we still do have Trents, but it's pretty much, in my opinion, not the same. The Trents would use roots, and you could just DPS people with you pop you pop Trents, and they get rooted, and you can keep DPSing them. And then right now it's changed to a taunt, which is, I still never am gonna understand why that exists. But yeah, so I feel like that's one of their weaknesses, and they also just recently lost Displacer Beast. So I feel like that's the reason why I put them in. It's a little bit harder to kite now. I mean, yes, they have Disarm, they have Thorns, they have tons of different stuff, but like, with the GCD on, the Shapeshifting, losing Displacer Beast, don't have the Trents from back in the day, they just seem to be losing more stuff, and it's a little bit harder to kite like a rogue with 2 Shadow Steps, which I know not every spec has that, or a Demon Hunter with 2 Fell Rushes, or Fell Blade, or a Warrior with 2 charges, which I know they have to give up the stun for, or an Heroic Leap. And, you know, those are just pretty much some examples of stuff. Like, it's just, in my opinion, a little bit harder to kite melee a little bit. Anyways, those are my, what I think on the weaknesses for Boomkin. Now let's go over counters. Some of you have told me on my last video, for the Hunter video, that you disagree with some of my comments about it. If you guys disagree with it, that is perfectly fine. Let's be realistic. It always depends. It comes down to the player. It's not impossible to win every fight. Depending on the player, it can also change the outcome of the battle, obviously. But this is pretty much based on what I think has, like, each class has a better chance against. Like, for example, Boomkin, in my opinion, counters mages. Mages have to keep casting, and for Boomkin, we pretty much have a lot of instant casts. And if they keep DPSing us, we get Alchemy Frenzy procs, get instant Litter Strikes, down everybody up, Star Surge. Overall, I just feel like we counter mages pretty dang hard. And if we get them in a deep roots, into a silence, they just can't really do anything. So that's just what I think. I feel like Boomkin can counter mage pretty hard, just solely due to the fact that reason. There is one spec that really kind of worries me. And this is what I was talking about earlier with the weakness of the silence. Is that our silence is a 1 minute cooldown, and if we use that one intro out and I go up against a fire mage, for those that seen my recent fire mage video, the Boomkin's silence was on cooldown. And there wasn't really much he could do, and I got a greater power blast on him, and he got screwed so hard. So, it really depends, but in my opinion, Boomkin does counter mages. Another one, people may disagree with me on this, because had some comments on the Hunter video. I feel like Boomkin counters Hunter, and the reason why this is because they have some spells that can, in my opinion, counter Hunters pretty hard. They got Hibernate back, which they can sleep their pet, and BM and Survival rely on the pet. And so that's the reason why I'm putting them on a list. They can also root the pet, which I know Hunters can use Master Calls to get out of it. They can Cyclone the pet. And overall, I just feel like they can counter Hunters. I feel like Boomkins have always countered Hunters because, again, like the mages, instant cast. They're going to sick their pet on you the entire time. And with the pen on you, you'll get so much instant Alkin procs, you can just destroy the hunter, in my opinion. So, also, I know we don't have a Dispel, and I know people are running Spirit Beast with the insane heal right now. You can Cyclone them and make sure the heal doesn't, like, heal them to full. So, that's just another perk. So, I don't know. People can disagree with me on it if they want to. But overall, that's just my thoughts on it. Warrior. We counter Warrior because they can sit in the roots. And that's a Warrior's weakness, in my opinion, is the roots. So, just put them in roots. The final one, in my opinion, I wasn't sure whether to add this to the list, but after thinking about it, I feel like we do counter them, is Demon Hunter. And it's pretty much for the same reason why a Warrior. If they sit in the roots, they're kind of screwed. So, if they end up drinking that, they'll probably, which they usually probably do, if not, they'll probably go Metamorphosis on you, just pop your Disarm, and then they can't do anything with that, and they're wasting their burst. If they trinket that, you can stun them, and then you can do them in another roots. So overall, I feel like those are the reasons why we can counter Demon Hunter. Up next is hard counters. Rogue, and it's just because they have a lot of CC, they can Cloak of Shadows through burst. Overall, Rogue is just one of the king of 1v1s in the game, and they're your worst nightmare. Paladin. The reason why this is because they have insane damage and healing. I feel like they can out-heal our damage, because our single target isn't necessarily the best, and that's just the reason why they have tons of utility for them. So, plus their stun is up a lot, and if you trinket the first stun, they'll probably get it back before the fight even ends because they have a talent that reduces the cooldown over time. And yeah, that's the reason why I'm putting Paladin. Next is Warlocks, simply due to the fact that we have 1 minute silence. Affliction could probably out-heal us. Demology can keep us CC'd. Destruction can hit incredibly hard for the same reason Affliction can. We have a 1 minute silence. Overall, that's just my opinion, those counters. People can disagree with me on it. Up next is Feral. Feral Druid, is its strength is being one of the best 1v1 classes in the game. You don't really lose to many classes, in my opinion, as a Feral Druid. They have really good healing. They have good utility. They are a little bit squishy, in my opinion. That's one of their weaknesses. And one of their weaknesses is the GCD. Another one of their strengths, I believe, is the bleeds. And if you're someone that does struggle against rogues and make sure they don't want to get away, the bleeds do help, because if they vanish and the bleeds are still on them, they come right back out of stealth. So let's go ahead and move on to counters. So Feral Druids counter rogues pretty much for the reasons I explained. The bleeds, they can't get away with that. Mages, you can stick to them like glue, and there's just really nothing they can possibly do about it. So they counter mages pretty well. Warrior, for pretty much the same reason as Boomkin, the roots kind of screw them over. Demon Hunter, I wasn't really sure for Feral. I mean, I feel like you can still do pretty well against Demon Hunter. I feel like Boomkin counters them pretty well, much better than Feral. I don't know, just my opinion. They still do pretty well against them. So I guess I'll add them to the list. Hard counters. Anybody that plays a dwarf. Anybody that plays a dwarf that can remove the bleeds. Survival Hunter with Mending Advantage can remove the bleeds. So they counter Feral's Druid pretty hard. I'm going to say Paladin simply due to the fact that their stun is a low cooldown, basically. And if they catch you outside of bear form, you can get screwed pretty hard. So, people might disagree with me on the Paladin thing, but that's just what I've noticed. I was going to do Guardian as well, but if you guys really want to know, I'll probably post it in the comment section, because not a lot of people really play tanks in PvP, and I know a lot of people hate them. So, if you guys really want to know, I will just post it in the comment section. And let me know what your guys' thoughts are on this. I try to put it into as much detail as possible. I obviously might have missed a few things. Let me know what your guys' thoughts are on, and I'll see you guys later.